Well, hello there. I'm Jim.
I'm Fred, and welcome to the Fotobug YouTube channel.
Yes, we hope that you're going to subscribe to it because we plan to bring you everything photographic. So if you're into photography, you're going to want to subscribe to our channel. And if you want to be notified when we put out something new, be sure to click on the little bell there and it'll ring and let you know when something new is posted. But what have we got today, Fred?
We'd like to talk to you about real estate photography.
Yeah.
If you're into photography and you're thinking, I wonder if I could make money doing this, I'm pretty good at it or I'm really good at it, well, here's one way we could do it. But we're not going to just tell you ourselves, we're going to talk to an expert. We're going to bring on...
What a concept. We're going to bring in an expert, Robert Wicker, who is a professional real estate photographer.
And he'll tell you all about the tips, the tricks, and the how-tos. So let's get started with that.
Let's go. Well, hi. We have done in the past, we have gotten portrait photographers. We've had food photographers.
Yes.
We've had, help me out here, Fred. We've had a lot of other different types of
Landscape photographers, macro photographers.
Well, as far as wedding photographers, that's what I was
Yes.
trying to think of. But we have never had a real estate photography. So I want to introduce
A real estate
Robert
photographer.
Wicker with
Yeah.
real estate photographer. I know you do others besides
Correct.
real estate, but you are making
That's where I make my money.
on real estate. So we want to welcome Robert Wicker to the Photobug.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We're going to put you on our stand here,
Okay.
and hopefully you can give some advice to people that might be interested in getting into real estate photography themselves.
All right, that'd be great. I guess one thing you want to do is network. It's get involved with your local real estate board. I personally find going to broker open houses to be my number one thing. Get tight with mortgage companies and title companies. Go to those broker opens because that's the serious realtors that are coming out there that are getting the listings, and that's going to be your potential customer.
Is it important to have a little portfolio to take to show with you when you go?
It definitely helps. It's awesome. A lot of them say, do you have a website? So, it's nice to have your website, have a gallery in the website to where they can see your work.
And just a kind of out of left field question, would a LinkedIn account help as a networking tool?
LinkedIn's it is, because then you can also search out, with the LinkedIn
And realtors.
and pinpoint where you're
Right, and
where
then
you're
put
picking
yourself
this up.
out there to aim
Exactly.
towards them. Okay,
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a big fan of LinkedIn.
cool. Okay.
Well, assuming somebody wants to get into this, wants to try it, and you've been doing this for quite some time,
Correct.
Is correct? So this is the guy that's going to have some advice to hopefully get you started. So how would somebody get started in this besides going in there as far as the equipment side of it? Because hopefully people have to know what they're doing. I mean, once
Correct.
somebody hires you, you want to be able to go in there and produce the photographs that's going to sell that property.
Exactly. Equipment's a big thing. A full frame camera definitely helps.
Because the wide angle.
Correct. I currently use I use two different camera bodies depending on what it is. One's full frame, one's not. But the go-to camera that I use is my Nikon D3S.
I'm going to explain real quick for people that might not understand the difference that if you have a crop sensor camera, let's say you got a 10 millimeter lens.
Correct.
That 10 millimeter lens effectively is maybe 15 millimeter, depending, or
Correct.
16 millimeter,
What your
depending on
crop
the
is.
brand and the crop. A full frame, that would be the same equivalent as a 10 millimeter on a 35 millimeter film camera.
Correct.
So you're actually getting a wider view and you're getting more in your shot with a full frame.
Now,
Exactly.
you're doing full frame. What kind of lens do you tend to use as your go-to lens for that?
I personally, I like the what do you call it? The prime lenses. So I've got the 14 2.8. I've read some studies and stuff like that. The 12 to 24, I think Nikon is actually sharper.
I was going to say you're shooting Nikon, so this is a Nikon lens.
Correct. And I mean, you can use Canon, you can use Nikon. I'm actually toying around a little bit with looking at some of the Sony stuff.
But you like that focal length, 14
I
millimeter.
do. The 14 is that point where it doesn't distort, and I use an aspherical lens, so you'll see in some of our videos and stuff, the aspherical lens will actually get you a very wide view without distorting and getting the walls curved and that type of thing. You do have to watch the edges a little bit because you can distort if you're right on the edge.
But with raw converter, you can correct that to an extent too.
To an extent, exactly.
So you're saying a good wide angle lens is going to really make what you're trying to do.
It'll make or break you.
Really
Which makes
make
sense.
it pop.
Yep. Yeah, because you figure if a realtor is going to go in and try to do some of their own stuff, they're probably going to shoot it on their cell phone, and a cell phone doesn't have wide angle. So they're not going to be able to get what you're going to be able to get. So when you come in, I mean, my setup is, it's what the original body was $6,000. The lens was, almost $2,000, $1,400, something like that. I use a Faisal tripod. We're talking another $1,000 there.
So there's a cost of entry here.
Yeah.
That's to be aware of. That. What about lighting?
Lighting, it's really kind of funny. I've kind of perfected my system to where a lot of my smaller homes are one light on camera, I use a bounce card and, fill the frame. We'll show you, how to do that in some of the video and stuff like that.
We're going to do a walkthrough with Robert and a couple houses. Yeah.
So... And, you can do it because basically you're into a corner, you turn the flash back, you bounce the light up. So what you're doing is you're just creating this monstrous softbox that's just going to take and just put nice soft light throughout the home. And, one of the key things with lighting in the home is your aperture and your shutter speed. Right. The shutter speed is going to control your outside. The aperture is going to control the inside. So the aperture is going to work along with your flash, and your shutter speed is going to work with your ambient or outside light.
Right. And the question I had for you when we were doing a walkthrough, whether you ever use HDR techniques, especially when you have a large picture window and you want the outside, you don't want to be blown out. Do you ever do that?
I'm not a real big fan of HDR on real estate. The biggest reason is because most of the people that are doing HDR are over processing them.
Well, yeah.
And
That's no doubt.
You go on the MLS and you see a lot of fake looking stuff, and that is where I get a lot of my customers. They're like, I want that house to look like when I walk in the front door, this is the same house that I see online.
How about instead of HDR, call it exposure stacking?
Yes, the exposure stacking I do. I currently use a third party to do a lot of my post-production stuff. And so what I'll do is I'll shoot him one shot for the window, one shot for the inside, and send it, and then he can stack it and bring it together. And
you have some. You don't do most of your own post-processing?
Correct. I actually have a person out of India that does a lot of my post-production. And it's worked out very well.
He has his own software. Is it Photoshop, or do you?
I've never asked him what he uses, but
the results speak for themselves.
But he does such a nice job that.
You say it was very inexpensive too.
Yeah, it is.
You were telling me something about I can't remember what it was. The conversation because it was like $6.
Yeah, he'll do actually a daylight to dusk. So in other words, if I have a shot where it's a dull day, and I was like, you know what, I want that to be a twilight shot. So I can actually shoot a shot, underexpose it by about a third of a stop, and send it to him. And it'll come back, and it'll be, nice blue, magenta sky. All the exterior lights are lit up.
Without doing an actual twilight, you can have
Exactly. A simulated twilight.
Another thing that Fred and I have been talking a lot about, too, is drones for real estate. And I know you have a 107 certification.
Correct.
Which I should tell people that if you want to do drone photography, you're doing it commercially, So you're going to want to be legal. In order to be legal with the FAA,
Right.
if you're making money with your drone, you have to have a 107 certification.
And that
Exactly.
basically means a test. You're going to have to take a
Take a
an
test,
exam.
unless you're a licensed pilot,
Yep.
and
Then you can just
If you're
register
current,
that.
yeah.
yes.
Right. I think actually even a registered pilot has to take a small.
you have to go in
it's,
and yeah,
it's a few
yeah.
questions.
But you don't have to go through the $150 60 question.
Exactly. And
I'm a certified pilot, but I'm not current, so I couldn't do that, and I'm just going to go down and take the test.
Exactly. And, you know, it's, I don't have this for sure, but what I've heard, if you do get caught without your 107, the realtor that hires you is fined $11,000 for knowingly hiring somebody without a license, and you get $1,100 fine.
And that won't endear you to any of the...
Anybody.
Exactly.
well,
It makes that $150 test well worth the money.
yeah. And you can write that off, and it's good for 2 years.
Yep.
So every 24 months you'll have to renew it. But
And realizing you're not always going to be using drone for the exterior shots.
Correct.
It's just certain houses you want to do
Yep.
that, and others you're just going to do your outside from a tripod, handheld, or
Mainly tripod, and pretty much everything I shoot in real estate, I put on a tripod. Even if I'm using a higher speed, I just prefer to have it because I like to try to, you know, I will use in my camera where I can look at the level, make sure all of my verticals are vertical and, you know, not leaning and that type of thing. And it just, it makes a lot better photo.
okay.
Something we're working on is, you know, a lot of the, like the Mavic Air that, you know, we're actually in some of the bigger homes actually flying the drone
interiors.
interiors.
oh, wow, that's
Wow.
interesting.
So it's
And we've got a review of the Mavic Air coming up here soon. So.
fantastic.
So
I'll keep it. I do watch you guys, so
Oh.
you know, that's something I look forward
this,
to.
by the way, we should mention, is our other listener.
Hey, that's me. So
So that guy out there has been listening to us. This is the other listener.
so, but yeah,
And
it's,
I would assume that you would have a package that you put together as far as pricing or billing.
I do. I'll
You don't
usually
have to
do
give us what the
exact numbers and stuff.
numbers, yeah, but just get an idea of how you work that.
What I do is under 2,500 square feet is one price, and you know, if we were discussing, I would probably tell you it would be somewhere around 125 to 150 bones. They wouldn't be dollars, but it would bones.
Bones,
you know.
okay.
And then up from there, it goes up by, you know, square footage
By the size of
per
the property.
thousand. It goes up, and you know, you get in these multi-million-dollar mansions, and I mean, you can basically spend a full day and
Oh, imagine.
you know, walk away with $1,000 invoice to the customer. So you know, if you're doing
course,
video and everything else,
For what they're getting for the property,
Exactly.
it's well worth it for them.
exactly. And that's the nice thing is, like, you know, I kind of pinpoint some of the higher end realtors because, you know, you're doing the same amount of work. It's just a little bit longer because there's more rooms.
Yep.
So, you know, if you can knock out $400 or $500 out of something, you know, it's a good day's work.
So probably stay away from the trailer parks. And,
Yeah, exactly.
would be a good idea.
Okay. But
Well, Fred, any other questions?
No, I think we should go
Yeah,
do a
we're
walkthrough.
going to do the walkthrough with the work. You have anything? I know one of the things you had mentioned to me about what's in your camera bag. Is there anything else? Do you do anything with filters? Tripod, camera, your 14 millimeter lens,
Yep.
and
Occasionally-
your flash.
occasionally I'll use some neutral density, you know, filters and stuff. Don't have to use that very often. My camera still uses compact flash, and you know, with that whole market, you know, Lexar getting out of the compact flash and that type of thing, I've since day one been a huge fan of Hoodman. Bob has taken very good care of me, you know, at Hoodman, and anytime I've ever had any issues, forgot them, on a trip out west or something, he'll next day or something into me, and that type of thing. So, and I've never had a Hoodman card go bad on me. I have had other cards go bad, and I'll tell you, it's nothing worse than going shooting 2 or 3 houses, coming back and your card won't read.
Wow, yeah, that's not a happy thing.
No.
I've got one final question. If I'm not on the line, I heard you talking when we were doing the walkthrough about Zillow.
Yes.
Is that something that people should look into? I understand they have some kind of a program.
Yeah, they have a photographer program. You can become certified Zillow photographer with 10 walkthrough videos that you do for them. Mm-hmm. And then after that, you can become a select. I'm kind of excited to announce that this past week I was chosen to be a select photographer for Zillow, which, as far as I know, from what I've been able to find, because they won't tell me directly that I'm the only one, but I believe I'm the only select photographer in Central Florida.
Wow.
So, and with select, they start recommending you.
We should mention that Robert is from Melbourne.
Correct.
The other coast of Florida. So he came over here and managed to get a couple
Over
houses.
the Tampa Bay area today. He's visiting.
We
and-
really appreciate him taking his time, driving all the way over here, so we didn't have to drive all the way over there.
Exactly. I'm a right coaster.
Right coaster, yes. We're on the left coast, the west coast.
Exactly.
Well, hey, I appreciate it. Any final words of wisdom or anything that you would advise somebody that's really interested in getting it? And if you have questions, please write us and we will pass them on to Wicker.
Yeah,
And if
absolutely.
he's in a good mood, he'll answer them.
Yeah, as I say, is it okay to give out my email if they have any questions? I mean,
If you dare.
yeah,
yes.
I'm fine with
I
that.
can, we'll put it right
We can
down
put it
here.
right here.
We put it
right here in our shoe.
right here.
It's pretty simple. It's Robert.Wicker, Wicker, @gmail.com.
There we
So
go.
pretty simple, and
So you can write directly to the man if you have questions,
go.
and he can either ignore you or answer you. So,
yeah, if I don't answer you immediately, I will answer you in a day or two, and it's I enjoy helping my peers. It's like I don't feel like it's bad to create competition, because competition only drives you to be better.
Yep.
So
Well, I do appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you
Thank
coming
you.
over here too.
All right.
all right.
Let's go walk through.
Let's do that. This is endless. That's good.
Okay. One thing that I've been able to do with my real estate photography is develop a special, I wouldn't call it special, but a lighting system that works great, able to fill the room pretty much with an on-camera flash in most houses, 2,500 square feet or less. If you notice, the flash does rotate around, and I use the white card. Friend of mine that devised this, he was a newspaper photographer for several years, and this card I'm bouncing off, pretty much hitting the ceiling and the wall behind me, and then that will flood the entire room with the proper lighting. I use the Young Newells, the 968 for the Nikon. I found is one of the best flashes that I've used so far. It has a lot of power. On the Nikon flash, I was at full power all the time, which will pretty much burn a flash up pretty quick. With the Young Newell, I'm down at half power with the same exposures. My kind of go-to exposure starts out around 60 at 4.5, and that's on the 14 millimeter 2.8 lens, 200 ISO. And with that exposure, if you're not dealing with a lot of windows, you pretty much are safe with it. And one kind of rule to remember, if you want to try to hold the windows, you up the shutter speed. To light the inside of the house, you open up the aperture. So remember that the shutter speed controls the windows and the aperture controls the inside house. Okay, here's where we have a situation where we have windows in the shot, and we want to be able to, they do have a nice view out back. We want to be able to hold that view, show what's back there. Oceanfront, riverfront, golf course, anything that has a nice view You want to try to hold that. That's just as important as the inside of the house. Again, shutter speed controls the outside, aperture controls the inside. So let's go ahead and get this shot. I'm going to bring it up to 250, and we should be able to stay at the about 4.5. And we held the windows, yeah, as you'll see in the shot here. Okay, another thing to remember is your views of each room. You want to try to capture the corners. Corners will give you the most amount of view of the room. With the 14 millimeter, it's an aspherical lens. It will typically will not distort. So if you get into corners, you can pretty much show how large the rooms are. That's very important when people are looking at the homes on MLS. One thing that we really have to watch out for, especially in bathrooms, you get a lot of mirrors. You don't want to be taking selfies in the mirrors. Major faux pas. So we're going to change our view a little bit and get rid of that reflection in the mirror. Again, we're going to adjust our exposure for a smaller room, usually about 60 to 100 at f8 on this. And it looks good. Okay, another thing we talking about reflections. A lot of times, if you do have a mirror, you can shoot into the mirror, see the rest of the room, but you have to watch the glass on the shower doors. A lot of times you get the reflection back on that, so you're standing in your reflection basically. So I back out of the room and fire off, and we're out of that shot. I prefer to use this mode. It allows to show the angle, making sure that you're level. Also, I can look and see that my verticals with the parallax is correct. Here you see that the vertical walls are straight up. If I'm off a little bit, you'll notice if it comes down, it starts distorting and going out. I believe that's shadow box or whatever they call it, where it comes out and you're not getting a nice, clean, straight image of what you're really looking for. Again, if I come back down, balance it, it's level, lines are up and down. That's an important thing, because that separates you from the realtor going in with their cell phone or an amateur going in. You're showing your true professionality by correcting the uprights and keeping everything on a balanced level. Okay, sometimes I'll even take the flash card off if I'm outdoors and I want to do a direct flash on a cloudy day like this to just pop up the front of the house or back of the house a little. I don't want my foreground to really show that flash area, so I'll actually come in here and flag it and fire, and now I've got the building lit up without lighting up the foreground. Okay, when you have a stairway, sometimes it's nice to get a little bit of an overhead of the living rooms or the room down below. It does give you a little different perspective from your ground view. We're going to use this staircase to actually bring us in a little bit here. Come up, bring the tripod up, steady it. One thing from this angle, you won't be able to correct your verticals, so you will have a little bit of a warped image, but it does make a nice view. So, I'm going to block out a little bit here, and perfect.
Well, thanks for watching our video, and we hope that if you want to see more, that you'll take just a couple minutes and click on the subscribe button up there.
And if you'd like to leave a comment, right down below, we'd love to hear your comments, what you'd like to see, what you did, what you didn't like. And of course, if you would like to be notified ahead of time, click on the little bell.